Welcome to Boxing During Dinner after a 1-week hiatus, David. We had Eric Morales, probably our biggest live guest that we've had so far.
And unfortunately, you guys missed out on a lot of fun too. Eric Morales, to my surprise, is hilarious.
Yeah, after we finished taping, we stayed here about 2 hours. Just shooting the
really,
shit with
really
the guy.
Funny guy. Really great guy.
Really funny guy, cool guy. He was just hanging out with us. He has some stories, man, and some funny stuff that but you guys ask him. I wasn't gonna tell him to tell you guys. You need to ask him yourselves, but. He had some good stuff to say, but we're back. I needed the week off, even though our producer / editor / cameraman Alex was out of town. He was
we could blame it
on
on
work
him.
assignment, but I needed a break after the Olympics.
Yeah, Armando, you guys wouldn't know, but Armando and our cameraman Alex were working for basically for the entire length of the Olympics, every single day.
No day off,
no day off.
15-hour days. So they were crazy, and the man behind the camera worked harder than everybody else.
He did.
So,
I'd also like to give a quick shout. We haven't said anything of substance yet, but his birthday was just a couple days ago. So happy birthday to Alex. It's a special moment for him.
He turned 42. No,
29.
29.
Close.
He's a young pup to.
He's in between us.
To those 32-year-olds. But anyway, David, lots of boxing to talk about. Actually, not really.
Not at the moment, but coming up very shortly.
But we got some stuff to talk about. While we were on our hiatus, our reruns, if you want to say that, and our Eric Morales episode, which obviously if you have Eric Morales, you talk about Eric Morales, nothing else. TMT, the money team, 50 Cent diving into the world of boxing. A good thing or a bad thing, David? I'm of the opinion that this is a good thing for boxing, especially since boxing in the last few years has been at times playing second fiddle to MMA. And maybe not to us, but to the ESPNs of the world that have the every time there's a UFC fight, first page, first picture, it's Brock Lesnar versus somebody, Cain Velasquez, etc. Rarely ever do you see a boxing fight hit the front page at ESPN.com. Maybe with 50 Cent, it'll bring some youth and some excitement back to the sport.
Yeah, I think so. And 50 Cent himself has said that there is no promoter that is currently really trying to focus on the African-American fighter right now. The way that Don King used to once upon a time, he's no longer that guy. I think this is good right now. I don't know what this means long term. I don't think that for boxing's bigger issues about the fact that promotionally it's all messed up, there's no actual structure to governing bodies and scoring and judges, this doesn't affect any of that. But it is a publicity boost for the sport, like you said, especially for black fighters who might not otherwise be getting that kind of awareness specifically for them. They signed in very short time Andre Berto, Andre Durrell, Billy Dibb, featherweight champion. You imagine they're going to have Floyd Mayweather on the roster, Yuriorkis Gamboa. A lot of pretty decent named fighters, and we know this card coming right here to our home in Miami, November 17th. Not settled yet, but Gamboa's going to be on the card, Durrell's going to be on the card, and there's talk that 50 Cent will even do a hip-hop concert before. So I think this is a good thing because it kind of sparks new life. The hip-hop industry is very much a part of pop culture in more ways than one, and I think that with this type of infusion of excitement that it could do some good for the sport. No,
and I'm hoping this is a serious endeavor for 50 Cent because what's his real name? Curtis Jackson. Curtis Jackson. He's a smart guy. I mean, he started with nothing, has built an empire. 50 Cent and what was the crew?
Get Rich or Die Trying. Oh, the G Unit. Of course.
G Unit. How could I forget?
Yeah, maybe Lloyd Banks will come out of the gutter or wherever it is that he's sleeping.
Lloyd Banks will be back.
Throw Lloyd Banks and the rest of G Unit in the ring.
The Don Kings of the world started like that. They started hustling. They started with another endeavor, and then eventually it became boxing, and it became something big. And like you said, to the African American youth, these young fighters growing up who maybe used to listen to 50 Cent growing up, and see his involvement with Floyd Mayweather, and look up to Floyd Mayweather. This could be a good thing. Like you said, it might get them to feel more comfortable. It's somebody that may understand them, that's looking out for their best interest. And like we were saying, boxing needs a shot in the arm, and not to say that Bob Arum and the other promoters, De La Hoya, aren't doing a good job of promoting, because they are. I mean, they're giving us, Chavez Martinez, September 15th. That's a pretty freaking good fight.
Yeah.
But for the youth, for the people that only watch the Mayweathers and Pacquiao, this may be kind of like a little bit of a resurrection for boxing. Because I remember growing up, Don King used to have these monster cards.
Right.
We want to see that again. We want to see Durrell, Gamboa on the same card, and a couple more guys.
Or somebody like that. I think, yeah, and that's, you make an interesting point about how this may not only affect the sport promotionally, but even down the line of, think about what Michael Jordan did to inner city youth who, wanted to play basketball. I mean, he embodied something that they maybe hadn't thought of in that same way. I think for a lot of kids, 50 Cent is the embodiment of maybe who they were at some point. Like, wow, 50 Cent's doing this, this boxing thing. Maybe that's, it lends a little bit of authenticity and street cred to the sport, that otherwise might not have been there. But 50 Cent, I think is hungry to prove himself. I don't think he wants to be the third best promoter in the sport, or he's certainly not the third best right now just by showing up on the scene. Although having Floyd Mayweather maybe puts him in there financially, but I think that he wants to prove himself, and this is a chance to do it.
And let's hope he takes it serious, because being a promoter is not that easy. I mean, you just don't go in and promote a fight. Bob Arum has been doing this for, probably half his life, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
He's promoted some of the biggest names in the world of boxing ever, and he knows a thing or two, and he's prepared his crew. Top Rank, who has Todd DeBuff, who has Brad Jacobs there, Carl Moretti,
right.
One of the better matchmakers of this era.
A lot of good talent coming behind him.
A lot of good talent. Is 50 Cent prepared for this? Because, one thing is saying, all right, I'm going to do this. I've seen how it's done. Another thing is doing it. And that November 17th card is going to tell a lot, because we may get there to cover the fight, and it may be completely disorganized.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to wait and see what happens.
It could happen. But, for what we know at this point, which is not very much, they haven't put on a fight. This is, it can't be a negative thing, I think. I mean, they're going to do their best to promote fighters who they think were under-promoted, and we'll see what happens. But we're talking about things that are going to happen. We got 4 fights coming up between September 8th and September 15th. Doubleheader cards on both nights. What do you want to talk September 8th? We got finally a venue for Bailey Alexander.
Yep,
We're going
in
to Las
Vegas.
Vegas.
And I knew from the get-go, and you heard it here first on Boxing During Dinner, that the fight was not going to be
in St. Louis.
In St. Louis. There was no way. Bailey stated it. He said, I'm not fighting in St. Louis. Everybody was telling me, no, Armando, it only makes sense in St. Louis. None of it's Las Vegas.
Right.
It makes sense every fight makes sense in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And that should be a good one. We also have Andre Ward and Chad Dawson that same night.
Yeah.
I'm not offering any predictions now, though. We need to sell the show for later. But
You're such a tease.
Dawson and Ward, and David. Not to say that the fight's gonna be bad, and Andre Ward's one of my favorite fighters, one of the best fighters in boxing. But this is the 24/7 that I'm the least up for. If I don't watch one episode, I don't think I'll really miss anything.
I'm gonna watch, and I think a lot of the purists who watch the show are gonna watch also. But on paper, I'm really excited about this fight. If you think about Chad Dawson, who I believe is one of the 1 or 2 most physically gifted fighters in the sport. He has been fighting guys who are in their 40s and close to their 50s for quite a few years now. I believe that Chad Dawson fights to the level of his opponent and prepares to the level of his opponent, and that's what I think is interesting about this fight. Andre Ward is going to bring the fight to Chad Dawson, and if Chad Dawson, who's going to show up? If it goes literally on gifts alone, this could be a really interesting fight.
The Chad Dawson that we all know and love, the talented Chad Dawson, the one that we expected to be a champ for a long time, is the Chad Dawson I saw against Tomas Adamek.
Yes.
And this was years ago already.
Yeah.
I mean, since then, we've seen Chad Dawson kind of regress. It was like for the Canes fans out there, college football fans, Ja'Cory Harris, when he got to the University of Miami, his first year, he was great. And after that, he just got worse and worse and worse. And, Chad Dawson, even at his worst, is still one of the top fighters in the division.
Yeah.
But let's hope, it's what you're saying. He fights to the level of his opponent, because that could be a great fight.
Yeah, we'll get to our predictions like you said, but I'm excited for that.
And the week after, obviously, we have Canelo and Josecito Lopez. I'll tell you my prediction now. Canelo wins.
What?
And Chavez against Martinez, which is the fight I'm looking forward to. It should be a great test for Chavez, not as a test. It's not a... It's a test in the sense...
It's a measuring stick.
That Chavez Jr. has improved so much. He's the son of the legend. We're finally going to get to see if he's a real fighter, if he's gonna be a legend like Pops, or if he's just gonna be another guy that held the title for a couple of years and went away.
I think that Chavez Martinez, and forgive me for not thinking pay-per-view numbers, but maybe even so, this could be the biggest boxing event of 2012. I mean, but barring something crazy that happens with Pacquiao or Mayweather, in this second half of the year, but from a publicity standpoint and everything, things could really heat up. The Mexican fans, are going to tune in.
That name Chavez carries a lot of weight.
From an event standpoint, I'm not talking pay-per-view numbers here, although I expect this to do significantly well when you compare it to any other fight that doesn't have
and that's
Pacquiao
considering
or Mayweather.
that Canelo fights the same night on Showtime.
Right, exactly.
On free, well, not free, but if you have a subscription to Showtime, you're not going to pay $50 to watch the fight, or 60 or 70 or whatever they're charging nowadays. But David, another thing I wanted to talk about was Breaking Bad, dude. Breaking Bad is the best show on TV.
Yeah, really? I didn't think we were actually going to go there.
Breaking Bad is
Armando
the
likes
best
Breaking Bad.
on TV.
And when you get to Breaking Bad, you know that the content has run out on your episode.
But all kidding aside, a guy that did fight last Friday, and it wouldn't be a boxing during dinner if I did not mention Carlos Molina, who fought. And I saw a lot of people getting on his case on Twitter, and I was getting a little angry. I was getting worked up.
Yeah, of course you were. He's your boyfriend.
Yes, it was a boring fight.
But that's how Carlos Molina fights.
When you're Carlos Molina, and you beat Lara and get a draw, and you're beating Kirkland, and you take a loss because the Texas Commission is a joke, and his cornerman shouldn't have come in. This is one of the top fighters at 154 who cannot get a fight. So what do you do? Do you sit here at RANDAZZO'S and eat their great food and become a heavyweight?
No.
Or do you fight Damian Frias? I mean, you can't fault the guy for fighting whoever's available. It wasn't even going to be the main event.
Exactly.
Except that Donna Stevenson got injured.
It was injured, and Donovan George, that would have been a great fight. I'm with the mindset that for guys like him, and ironically, Erislandy Lara also, because these guys fought each other, and ever since that fight, they've been completely avoided by anybody of substance. If I'm either of those two guys, I just try to continue fighting anybody I can get in the ring with, just so that my name stays up there and I'm not getting rusty, because I think both of those guys are in a very similar predicament. They're extremely talented fighters, arguably could beat anyone in their weight class.
Probably the two best in the division.
They could be. There is an argument that Molina and Lara are numbers 1 and 2 in that division. But until they get a rematch, which is a very good possibility, I've heard could happen as well. I think these guys should stay as active as they can, even if it means fights against guys like Damian Frias. But it's too bad. Molina's deserving of bigger fights, and he's not getting them. And I don't think that he ever will.
And the last time I was in LA, I saw Luis de Cubas, who's one of Lara's handlers. He was at Golden Boy Promotions trying to negotiate a rematch with Carlos Molina.
Yeah.
And that'll be a good fight, and props to them. If nobody else is stepping up to the plate to fight them, fight with each other. It was a good fight the first time around, but don't mess with Carlos Molina.
No.
You guys know who you are that we're dogging him. I didn't appreciate it.
Daniel Placides messaged me the other day and asked me if I saw your boyfriend.
he texted me. He's like,
crush.
What's your prediction? I'm like, Molina, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Come on. I mean, is there even a question? But that's it for boxing during dinner. Or we're waiting for our dinner. We're hungry.
It'll be here.
Margo cooked something up. He wants to cook for us personally.
Isn't that awesome?
That's the love you get here at RANDAZZO'S. Mark Randazzo, and this isn't just because we come and film the show here. When we're here, Mark goes to every single table and has a conversation with all the
you can't go to any other restaurant, forget just Italian food, but any restaurant period where the owner himself is coming to your table asking you how your meal is and asking you for honest feedback about what they could do better. And he's a
former world title challenger. I mean, for God's sakes.
Because if you don't like his food, it'll whoop your ass.
he will kick your ass. And he has friends. Bernard Hopkins, remember, he was here.
Yeah.
Eric Morales is here. Boom Boom Mancini comes around.
Well connected.
Very well connected, and you know what? And you can see the best Italian mob movies because they're constantly playing.
They're all showing in full, and the screen behind us.
I don't know how YouTube legal what Alex was doing. But who
fair use agreement, something like that.
We only showed 5 seconds of it.
Exactly.
But we'll be back next week. Will we have a guest? Will we not? Who knows?
We're like the stock market, very volatile.
It's still August. I'm still in Olympic mode.
Yeah. Once September comes around and the weather cools down and the sport heats up, we'll have more for you.
Oh, MMA, Ronda Rousey. She's hot and she could fight.
I don't like MMA. Sorry.